In the meantime, we have the latest results of CNBC's All-America survey, and it looks like the consumer is still feeling the chill of inflation. Our senior economics reporter, Steve Liesman, is here. He's got more on that front right now. Hey, Steve.
Morning, Becky. Yeah, Americans this holiday season say they are getting a visit from a ghost of Christmas past. That is inflation. The CNBC All-America Economic Survey finds inflation still haunting the buying public, leading to what's shaping up to be, according to this survey, just an average season for retailers out there. Just 16% say they're spending more this year. That's down from 18% last year. 48% say it's about the same. That's up 5 points. That's okay. Spending less, that's down 2 points to 35%. Average projected holiday spending, $1,014. That's about the average level of the past several years, but down from, we had an outlier last year of $1,300 in our survey. Who's spending more? Well, aged 18 to 34, 28% say they're spending more. Republicans perhaps feeling a little bit in their step after the election. They're going to spend more. Urban core counties, hourly workers, and Latinos also say are a little bit above average among who's spending more. How about less? Well, those with a lot of debt are going to spend less. That 30 to 50,000 income level. Women age 18 to 14, and if you didn't have money in the stock market, you're also not feeling it when you go to the mall. And those who see the economy as fair or poor, also 50 to 64-year-olds are among those who say they're going to spend less. Now, this is where it gets interesting. What are the reasons they're going to spend more? Well, 37% said it's because of higher income. But 25% said they're spending more because, what? Things cost more. Some people have more people to give gifts to, and some people are also upbeat on the economy. And then you look at the reasons for spending less. Inflation is also the top reason right there, 36%. Some people say they have lower income. Some people even say they have trouble paying their bills, and those who are downbeat on the economy. Overall, 64% of the public say prices are higher this year compared with last, with 34% saying much higher. For the record, the CPI is down about 0.4 percentage points from last year to 2.7. Goods prices actually have fallen year over year. We don't know if those are Christmas goods prices, but goods overall. That suggests Americans are keyed in on the rise in prices from the ghosts of prior inflation, the price level.
Some of that 18 to 34 spending ought to be shifted over to the 60 to 60. I think that's parental. You know what I'm saying?
He's providing the funds for those?
In other words, they give the money to the kids. The kids do the buying.
Exactly.
Well, don't you have Robert Frank coming up this morning talking about the great wealth transfer?
Yep.
Yes.
That may be part of what's happening.
Yeah, it is.
For certain
Personally,
sectors.
I can, yeah.
The inflation I guess the feelings about the economy, the people who are worried about it, they're citing not only inflation but the bad economy. Is that concerns that they may be laid off at some point?
It could be. The New York Fed surveys on this show people are still confident in keeping their jobs and not really worried about losing it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's so much at play. I do think there's a little bit of politics in the inflation answer.
Yeah, you've said that.
So here's the way it breaks down. I don't have the exact numbers, but it's roughly this. 75% of Republicans say prices are higher. Only 40% of Democrats. But 75% of independents also say prices are higher. So that's part of the perception out there. This price level thing is really the thing, and it's not something that economists have figured out how to deal with when it comes to policy. You have this rise in the price level. I don't know. It could be 2, 3, maybe 4 years from now that people feel like, oh, prices are normal now when they get used to it.
I thought about this yesterday. The way that we try, some people want to excuse the inflation that we've had to the supply chain issues after the pandemic. If it was purely supply chain issues and bottlenecks at the time, and not all the money that we put into the system at that time, the Milton Friedman idea, that's purely what Larry Summers warned about. We're spending too much because if it was just supply chain pandemic-related inflation, why didn't it go back down?
I heard that conversation yesterday when I was driving in my car.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
you had that conversation. Somebody mentioned it.
Yep.
And I had a reason for it. It's because labor costs went up.
Right.
Labor costs went up. Remember,
and that stays up there.
Part of this, right?
Nobody gets there.
Part of the supply chain problem we had was people.
Right.
We lost 1 million people from the COVID. We also lost people from the workforce. They dropped out, and so we had to bring them back. That high level of labor. Look, Joe, there's definitely a role, and a big role perhaps, for the spending. But the supply chain was a big part of it. A lot of that went away, and inflation came down.
The wages don't go
why
down.
did it even occur? Also, Joe, you have issues of, is there the competition
But
out there?
you think some of the inflation was caused by too much stimulus?
I remember I was arguing against that amount of stimulus at the time. I thought there was a way to target it at people who were poorer, and also to give it to local governments, so they didn't lay off teachers and those sort of things. That would have been a much more limited stimulus, which is the one I thought was
necessary. And wages, they don't go back down, except maybe for high.
Well, they can go back down.
Except for maybe overpriced network talent.
The music's playing, but I have to say this.
It can go down.
This is the reason why we don't have deflation. We don't have a deflation as a policy.
No.
Because when prices will come down, it means wages will come down. And if you think people are angry about prices going up, where do you see anger there about wages going down?
You hear what I said.
Now I'm done.